The goal of being 100% self-reliant in the United States for oil and gas has been an ongoing battle. Fortunately, new technology has found a way to make this dream come true. However, like most situations, everything comes with a price. The technique currently used to extract natural gas has been affecting the American home and is becoming a larger problem each year. The EPA should more strictly regulate how oil and gas companies extract natural gas through the process of hydraulic fracturing by enforcing the protection of the environment, keeping the U.S. population informed about the issues, and providing safer techniques for the actual extracting of natural gas. From 1970 to 1974, the Environmental Protection Agency, more commonly known as the EPA, formed the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, and the Safe Drinking Water Act. The EPA's mission is to protect human health and the environment, as well as ensuring that all Americans and the environment are protected from significant risks to health. They were established in 1970 because of concerns in environmental pollution, so they have years of experience and understanding of the country's environmental issues. The EPA also takes opinions from citizens about safety concerns. For example, the EPA saw concerns from the public about the potential dangerous impact of fracking on drinking water, human health, and the environment. So the Appropriations Committee Conference report directed the EPA to research relationships between drinking water and hydraulic fracturing. In 2005, the Energy Bill was pushed through Congress by President Dick Cheney, which exempts oil and natural gas companies from the Safe Drinking Water Act, Clean Air Act, and Clean Water Act, the Superfund Law, and about a dozen other environmental and domestic regulations that violate the EPA's regulations. It exempts companies from disclosing the chemicals that are used during the process of hydraulic fracturing. The provisions essentially took the EPA off the job. Since then, oil and gas companies began to use new Halliburton technology and began the largest, most extensive domestic gas drilling campaign in history. This new technology is referred to as hydraulic fracturing, also known as fracking. The process starts with water and chemicals drilled 8,000 feet into the ground. The intense pressure caused by the frac creates a mini earthquake, which in turn causes the underlying rock to crack and release natural gas. Dr. Frank Spellman, who holds a Ph.D. in environmental engineering and consults on environmental matters with the U.S. Department of Justice, discusses the process behind fracking and the potential effects they may have on the environment. He states that in order to frack, you need fracking fluid, which includes 596 different chemicals, ranging from methanol and hydrochloric acid to tetramethanol, ammonium chloride, and ammonium persulfate. The EPA should more strictly regulate how oil and gas companies extract natural gas through the process of hydraulic fracturing by enforcing the protection of the environment. Each time a fracking site is established, it takes 1 to 7 million gallons of water to start the fracking process. Each time they decide to frack an existing well, it takes an additional 1 to 7 million gallons of water, and a well can be fracked up to 18 times, which adds up to about 40 trillion gallons of water. All of the water and fracking equipment has to get to the fracking site. A total of 1,150 tanker trucks are used for the fracking of one well. 400 to 600 of those trucks is for hydraulic fracture water. Flowback water removal requires 200 to 300 trucks, which means that all of the water that is used, only half of it comes back up. Josh Fox is the founder and director of the documentary Gasland. Josh has written, directed, produced 2 feature films and over 20 works for the stage, which have premiered in New York, Asia, and Europe. He effectively documents the effects of hydraulic fracturing on the environment as well as how it affects the people of the United States. Josh Fox states that flowback water, or produced water, is the water that comes up after the fracking procedure is completed and contains all the chemicals that were used throughout the fracking process. This water has to be stored in a pit before it is hauled to the fracking site. There are no regulations for what kind of pit is to be used. Clay, tarp, or other methods allow for some of the water to seep back into the ground. As mentioned, the water removal requires 200 to 300 tanker trucks per well. To get around that, oil and gas companies use a process called evaporation sprayers that spray the flowback water into the air in direct sunlight so that it evaporates faster. The mist that is being released into the atmosphere and contains all of the toxic chemicals that were used throughout the fracking process and fall down as chemical or acid rain on grasslands. This has a detrimental effects to the animal kingdom as well as the human population. The EPA should more strictly regulate how oil and gas companies extract natural gas through the process of hydraulic fracturing to keep the U.S. population informed about hydraulic fracturing issues. Dr. Theo Colborn is an environmental health analyst and received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Council of Science and the Environment. She was also a former U.S. EPA advisor. She has stated that the government should be collecting information and data about drilling a well, but is doing no such thing. The only reason the general public knows about the 596 dangerous chemicals that are used during the fracking process is because Colborn chased down trucks, sifted through safety data sheets, and collected samples revealing the truth within the fracking fluid. Colborn also lists different symptoms an individual may have if they come in contact with the toxic chemicals, such as dizziness, ringing in the ears, disoriented, peripheral neuropathy, swelling, and many other symptoms. Fox's interviews with people in Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Arkansas, and other states reported shocking stories about the impact of hydraulic fracturing on their lives. Some families could light their water on fire and would never think about drinking their water. Other families contacted the oil and gas companies that was drilling by their homes to give them water samples. The company determined that their water was unfit for consumption and provided them with water tanks. Most importantly, these families had to sign a non-disclosure agreement saying they wouldn't reveal any information about their contaminated water to anyone. Some families live within 20 feet of a fracking site and have been unable to go outside because of the toxic chemicals coming off of the plant. These people have been crying for help and not being heard. The EPA should implement regulations that would help minimize the complaints of the people. In Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is home of the Barnett Shale. Dr. L. Armendariz is an air quality specialist and researcher at Southern Methodist University. He claims that there have been over 10,000 wells drilled in the Fort Worth area and that Texas Commission on Environmental Quality has no idea how many gas wells were being put in the city of Fort Worth. He also states that the emissions from the hydraulic fracturing are greater than accumulated emissions from passenger cars in the whole city. Car emissions in Fort Worth are around 200 tons a day. Oil and gas development can be up to 200 tons a day, burn 800 gallons of diesel a day, and condensate tanks release hydrocarbons that contain known carcinogens and neurotoxins. Condensate tanks contain a semi-liquid condensate that comes up with the natural gas, when the naked eye cannot see. He also states that emissions from hydraulic fracturing are greater than accumulated emissions from passenger cars in the whole city. Car emissions in Fort Worth are around 200 tons a day. Oil and gas development can be up to 200 tons a day, burn 800 gallons of diesel a day, and the condensate tanks release hydrocarbons that contain known carcinogens and neurotoxins. Condensate tanks contain a semi-liquid condensate that comes up with the natural gas. What the naked eye cannot see is that the tanks expel a vapor that contains toxic chemicals such as benzene, toluene, and ethylbenzene. Natural gas is a non-renewable resource that will not be replenished on human time frame. However, natural gas is one of the cleanest burning alternative fuels, which can benefit the environment as well as lessen the use of gasoline, which has been proven to be more harmful. A more strictly regulated process of fracking should lessen the amount of air pollution that would be leaked into local water and enforce oil and gas companies to abide by clean air, water, and gas laws. The EPA should more strictly regulate how oil and gas companies extract natural gas through the process of hydraulic fracturing by providing safer techniques for the actual extracting of natural gas. There is never only one way. Looking at these fracking sites, there are thousands of things that could be applied to these sites to help reduce the risk of putting toxins in drinking water, such as using non-toxic fracking fluids, storing toxic waste either off-site or just simply not on the ground, and harnessing vital organics. Also, these sites are not monitored. No one guards them. Citizens of the U.S. can literally climb on top of them because these sites are on land that actually belongs to us, the U.S. citizens. Fox perfectly phrases how fracking sites are regulated now. The gas rig just seemed like a car simply made in 1890. A car without a windshield, airbags, crash test ratings, something fundamentally unsafe. If you think about a car made today, there are thousands of safety features. If safety features are added to the process of hydraulic fracturing, as they are in modern vehicles, the implications could be astounding. The problems facing our nation are numerous. Safely extracting natural gas can significantly help solve some of those problems. The way fracking is regulated now is causing major issues with drinking water and with the air as well. The EPA needs to protect clean water and air. The EPA needs to let oil and gas companies know that what they're doing is affecting the community in a negative way, and in the long run is destroying planet Earth. Fracking should be strictly regulated, and companies should abide by any laws that apply to the safety of drilling for natural gas. The United States would be positively impacted if the EPA helped regulate the extraction of natural gas in a safe and clean way. This problem is happening right now and is still going on. In order for the water of the United States to be protected and continue to be safe to drink, the EPA needs to help find an alternative way to ensure water contamination is not an option.